Okay, is everybody ready? Okay, so welcome to our meeting. It's our goal setting meeting. It's going to be very exciting. I hope everybody brought their goals. Okay. So let's do a quick attendance to see who we have to make sure we have enough, but I think we do have a lot of our people here. You want to, I don't have a list of who's supposed to be here. Brian's here, Lynn's here, George is here. I'm here. Jeanette should be here.
I'm
I
here.
can't read the green. Can you tell me what they say?
I'm here.
John is here, Heidi's here, Robbie Backus is here, Wella is here, Alex Rains is here, and Nancy Ward is here as well.
Okay,
Me
so
too.
how many committee members? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
Hello, can everybody hear me?
7?
Hello.
Robbie and Jeanette.
I got them.
Jeanette, I can
Okay.
hear you, but can the
I
committee hear
need
me?
to talk about the approval of the minutes for
Doesn't sound like it.
first we have to approve the agenda. I apologize. Isaac has big paper. I have a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Thank you, Brian.
Second.
Thank you, Lynn. Can I have a
Aye.
I'll send
Aye.
okay.
I'll send Isaac an email.
Tap me on the head.
Okay.
Remind me.
Can
Thank
I
you.
have a motion to approve the meeting minutes for November 18th? George, thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you, Brian. Can I have a vote, please?
Aye.
Thank you.
Aye.
And is there any citizen communication? We have citizens. I think you're citizens. I don't know who you are, so I think you're just citizens.
Cisco and Amy Bynum from the Port of Columbia County.
Hello, welcome. You guys want to chat? You're just hanging out?
We just came to observe and I'm new to the port, so just wanted to introduce myself.
Did I hear about you last month?
Probably.
I think I heard somebody from at the port was super duper.
Oh, super duper. Well,
Yeah.
that might be Gina.
She's our new real estate and,
No, it was you.
Yeah. I heard that there was gonna be cupcakes at this meeting, so we launched over here as quickly.
Where's your cupcake? Did you put it in your bag? I got you. Okay. So if there's no citizen communication, we'll move on to a brief overview of the council goal setting process. Who is going to talk about that?
Typically, the chair leads that discussion. I mean, I can if you'd like.
Well, I definitely do because I don't know what.
So-
goal setting process is.
So typically for every fiscal year, the council sets a set of goals to direct the city forward through the years. And part of what they do is they have the advisory committees look at the last year's goals and think about what's happened in the city in their area, talk about things that have been happening, review. Typically, we have the committees review the goals that they set for last year, the goals that council actually adopted, and then create a new set of recommended goals for council. Sometimes these things carry on. So, for example, the 50-year plan has been a goal for a while, and it's going to probably continue to be a goal, even though we're going to do it. Some things have been achieved, and so part of what you can do as the committee is talk about what you'd like to see on there, and it's kind of a time for you to assist in making change by recommending to council things you'd like to see as goals for the city to achieve in the next fiscal year.
Isaac, are the goals that are in the packet for 2022, 2021, 2022, are those fiscal year or calendar year?
So yeah, that gets a little confusing. So it's fiscal year. So we actually begin the goal setting process now at the end of 2021, but they won't be adopted by council until later. And then they'll start actually being in effect for the city to work on in July 1st.
In this meeting, I know that it's not on here, but are we going to go through the updates from our different liaisons?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's really up to each committee. It's been ran multiple ways, but typically it can be integrated like that for sure.
Okay, so I do want to go through that because that's why everybody loves these meetings, but just know that we have goals, so encapsulate our updates.
And then just as one more point, sometimes council doesn't take every single goal and adopt it. It's just a recommendation for them to consider.
So when we get to the goals, I spoke with the mayor today, and he swears he's going to start coming in January. We're very excited. We talked about a few ideas. I know Robbie Backus sent in some ideas. Another absent committee member, maybe, sent in some of her ideas, but we'll go over that. So, yep, it's right there. Do you want to start with your update?
The only thing I guess new that since last month is we're going to be doing kids' little literature, little culture kits actually for the next year. And we got a grant from the Cultural Coalition to do those. And also, Isaac, the water fountains coming for the parks coming tomorrow. I can probably put it somewhere at the library, but it's not going to be very big if it's coming FedEx. That's my update.
Okay. What about the chargers from?
Oh, for your car?
Yeah.
Well, they're going to be down by the Watts house, and
Okay, I can walk.
it's Michael knows more about that than I do as far as the contract, but I don't know when that's going to start construction.
I think the goal is to have all 6 of them in place by Memorial Days. The plan. I think we're real close with the city and with Tesla and the PUD. I mean, we have the funds to build 2 fast chargers, and then Tesla's paying for the other 4. So,
Thank you.
yeah. So,
For you, George. Because of you.
so yeah, we're really excited about that. We're building 2 in St. Helens as well, and we're in the midst of trying to develop a 5-year plan. So if you have ideas of other locations that would be strategic, that'd be great.
Spot up on Callahan Road, that would be.
Give me that address. We'll put
Okay.
put our plan.
And Michael, since you are the PUD liaison, would you like to go next?
Well, I think Heidi's online.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
The only update that we have is we are hoping to change our economic development grant program to also include enhancement of livability in the community. We'll be reducing the individual grants from $7,500 to $5,000 each in 2022. And we will also be introducing biannual application deadlines, and we are hoping to award 5 grants each at our March and September board meetings. And hopefully that will encourage more people to apply with the deadlines. And we're simplifying and removing some redundancy in the application questions. And that's it.
Please. Ready? I understand there's big things to report. I'm super excited to Nick today.
permanent park, hookup on a site, just. There's a box there that will be demolished, and so, that'll get reviewed and application. In January, application for an 8-lot subdivision, and that's just completing the north side of this. Just that's. We are in final review.
Lori.
for the
Lori.
next one. We'll set that up. I'll start over. Sorry about that. We did receive a food cart pod permit application for a new food cart pod to be located just west of the totem pole, which is kind of at the north end of where Old Portland Road meets Highway 30. That would be for 12 to 13 permanent food cart hookups, and then a tap room on that site as well. Secondly, I have a subdivision, an 8-lot subdivision application going to Planning Commission January 13th. That would complete the north side of Kale Street. Let's see, we are also reviewing the phase 3 for East Airport subdivision plans, construction documents. That would be for the road and utility improvements. And so they will be completing that over the next year. We're going to start looking at plans to upgrade the Peace Candle, working with Michael Curry sort of on some design of that. So council will look at sort of some concepts for that after the beginning of the new year. Let's see, I'm also looking at the second submittal for the dealer's market upgrades. And so that's the used car lot here in town. They are looking to build a new sales facility and garage where they can service their vehicles for sale, and then removing the existing kind of trailers and more temporary structures on site. Yeah, sure. Technically, it would be, I guess, owned by the land that it's on. However, the city does have an easement around it and has agreed to maintain it moving forward. City maintains it in an easement, yeah. Go ahead, Michael.
I was going to say that was one of the city council's goals, and to try and protect that because of element where you negotiate a.
Correct. The developer was good enough to work with the city on that and did grant us an easement so that we could keep it and maintain it. Let's see, another big piece of news just for the planning department, well, for the city as a whole. We did, I think you've already heard, receive a DLCD grant to update our housing needs analysis. That should kick off after the beginning of the year. And then we did release our RFP for the 50-year plan. We did receive 2 proposals, and we will bring that to City Council in early January to award a contract. So those are big items moving forward. One piece of that, which will definitely impact the Economic Development Committee, is the update or actually new economic opportunities analysis. So be looking forward to hearing more about that, and we'll be looking for feedback as that kind of moves forward. That concludes my update.
Thank you, Lori. I think Nancy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a quick update on Columbia economic teams moving involved in. I would just tee up off of Lori's comments about the 50-year vision. They were gracious enough to include us on the panel, select a consultant, and the economic opportunity analysis was obviously front and center for us, and hopeful that that's going to be highly robust. It's going to mesh. It's a lot more long-term than our strategic plan that we're developing, but I think we're going to find a lot of alignment there. So we appreciate being included. That kind of collaboration is what makes all this stuff cook. Also, something that got triggered off of conversations with Lori and her group is that we learned of the HNA that they were undertaking for that. We got together with Columbia Pacific Development, and we've initiated an application for the county for a county-wide housing needs analysis and production development plan. Scappoose is large enough, it's mandated. St. Helens is large enough, it's mandated. All the other cities, it's not. But look in terms of development and recruiting and expanding businesses, how you're going to house workers and how you're going to actually pitch the livability of the community is pretty important. So we also got a grant for housing needs analysis, GLCD, that's going on more of a county-wide basis, and it involves all of the other cities, and also a look at unincorporated lands in Columbia. We'll all be relieved to know that I'm not running that. I know nothing about it. We're in support of Colpac. Ariane Colombo, who is Colpac, is very experienced at this and has consulted on many. So there will be some coordination with Scappoose has got that process underway, but just so that you know that's going on from a kind of a bird's eye economic development view. Currently, we are trying to finalize the review of about 102, 105 grant applications for small businesses and nonprofits. The county, it's about $500,000 to allocate. I don't know how many, but I can tell you there are many Scappoose businesses and organizations that are notified by the end of the month, and then they'll receive their checks by the middle of January. And that's through the county. Here's my, there we go. I've got copies we can pass around. The board of directors of the economic team approved activating on the Business Resource Center and Small Business Development Center concept we've been developing. The city of Scappoose contributed $25,000 to the startup budget. So we hit our budget number. We've announced it. We have here will become part of the Oregon Small Business Development Center network. Will be their 20th center in the state, the first one in. And we have advertised, we have posted for the director's role, and want posting, I can get it to them, or it's on Indeed, and that closes the end of December as well. We'll be hiring in the month of January for a new director. That will be business coaching, business advising, free charge to any small business in. We have multiple recruiting projects that are underway. This has been kind of a busy week with recruiting projects from the state of Oregon. Coordinate very closely with the board on those. And we have 2 or 3, I think we could say, expansion projects, existing businesses that are looking to expand that we're working. And we have undertaken an enhanced manufacturing ad campaign. Why an ad out of the blue? And I think you've got a copy of it. This is actually hotter than hot off the press because it hasn't been published yet. The state of Oregon, Business Oregon, our economic development agency, state level, is sponsored a special Oregon issue of Site Selector magazine, which is a national publication. Actually, it's mostly on the Asian Pacific Rim. So it'll be an Oregon edition this spring. There's an entire editorial calendar of content. Advanced manufacturing is one of the editorial sections. So we got together with Michael at the utility and with Alex here at the city and OMIC, and they all stepped up and funded this ad. You see it here. You see that it doesn't talk about all of Columbia County. It talks about Scappoose and south part of Columbia County and advanced manufacturing. Point being, put on message with land, livability, and advanced and innovative manufacturing, and that's exactly what we're trying to draw people here to do. Point to this as, it's in the council's goals, it's in our goals, it's in, I think, this committee's previous goals at least, is to promote OMIC. And this isn't it. This isn't the end all beat all, but It's the first thing we've done in a concentrated way in quite some time. And it points the direction of what we're going to be doing. Because OMIC is the only advanced manufacturing asset the state has. And it's here. Why wouldn't we be marketing our number one asset? So we will be. So just wanted to give you a sneak peek of this. We literally just sent it to the publication yesterday. So crowning touch is Michael Sykes' quote. Coming in a close second would be Alex Rain's quote. But interested in your feedback on it and the direction we're going. There's some things we would do differently the next time, but this will be sort of the anchor of marketing with OMIC going. I think that's it and enough from me.
Do we have an OMIC? Oh, goody, yay, hi, welcome.
Hi,
Tell us who you are.
I am Amanda Hayner. I am new to PCC OMIC. And so I seeing everybody in the future. And at OMIC right now, and since I am kind of new, I speak mostly for PCC OMIC, not OMIC R&D at this. But we are up and running. We've got students in classes like mechatronics, welding, machining, CAD classes. Those are all happening right now. We're prepared to start a pre-trades program. And it's advanced manufacturing pre-trades, and it's a 16-credit course to really boost people into advanced manufacturing. What's kind of unique about it is that unlike a lot of trades-oriented programs, people don't have to choose specialization before they do it. They get to do a little career exploration in that class or in that term. And that's pretty exciting. We ran the on-ramp manufacturing. So things are definitely happening. I would love to see more local faces taking advantage of the opportunities at OMIC. But we're there and we're expanding. I personally will serve as the college and career coach, so I'm very much but I can support them with a lot of the economic burden of school. We can get them set up with scholarships so they can access most of the training that's available. Probably they won't be needing to pay for it. And we can support them in finding other resources like childcare, transportation, figuring those things out. That is part of my job, and we always stay focused on careers. So that's something that is really built in the OMIC, and something that's part of my job is making sure I know what employers are around, what's happening, and how our students going to be best prepared to fill jobs that are open. So that's what I've been doing. I've been waiting for OMIC to open because I've been in. They finally are getting things running, so I applied as soon as.
How do the students, as I have two in Skip the school system now, how do they find out? Is it, do they go there? Are you doing programs in the office?
That is a great question. So right now, we've been talking to all the counselors in the area, and we're quite flexible between whatever the schools are comfortable with COVID restrictions. So we can do remote presentations. We are doing remote presentations. We can take tours of up to 30 people at OMIC. So and we can even help with transportation because that can be a big barrier. Schools is paying for that transportation. I know in Scappoose right now, 2 drivers are a problem. So we're talking to PCC's transportation department to see if we can do it there. But we have been in contact with all the schools. We very much want to talk to students so we get that pipeline going and they know that we're there and they know what we do. We are also an option as an alternative education resource because we do have adult-based. So does that answer your question?
Yes, it does.
Great.
Thank you.
Do you have a sure?
We do have some brochures. I could send those.
Could you call me.
We also have a newsletter, so sign up for the news.
Hi, Brian Rosenthal. Quick question. What is your total enrollment at this point?
Oh, good to ask so far. I know that for next term, we've got about, I would say, between 30 and 50 enrolled.
Okay. Start.
Forward to this. And that includes our remote. Have some classes that are remote. And some of the programmable.
Go, Amanda. So since we don't have somebody here directly from OMIC, I'm gonna ask Paul because he might know.
Well,
You
I'm here from OMIC R&D.
Oh, goody, thank you. Well,
Yeah,
then I'll
sorry,
let
this is Josh Koch.
Josh.
Oh, sorry,
Well,
was there a
my
question?
was, I didn't know you were here, so I was gonna ask Paul a question, but Mike, I want to hear your OMIC update, what you've prepared, and then I'll ask you my question at the end. Because it might be covered in your update.
All right, sorry, I'll apologize in the beginning. I'm just going to speak off the cuff because I didn't have anything more formal prepared. The OMIC R&D has been growing steadily. We're currently at 10 staff here on site. We have a lot of ongoing construction efforts right now. Our current facility is going under about a $4 million renovation. Which PNC Construction is on site, and they've started a lot of work on. In certain areas, we're actually about 3 months ahead of schedule on our construction. It's going so smoothly. So activities that weren't planned to start until February, March are actually taking place currently. They've also begun work on our new Additive Innovation Center on schedule. So they are currently looking out my window there, scraping ground for the bottom of the slab for the new building. And everything is moving really well in terms of construction. During COVID, the amount of work that we saw from industry members or from people in industry seeking solutions to their problems declined significantly. We took that time to put together contracting mechanisms that would allow us to work with anybody, anywhere, and not just our members, which is a distinction from the other Boeing started innovation centers that are in our sister network. And so with that, we've actually gotten a lot of interest from other Oregon companies looking to do work into innovative manufacturing processes here in the Scappoose facility. So our work is upticked significantly to where we're booked out for the next several months on research based on those needs driven from other companies in the state of Oregon.
How many companies altogether are part of OMIC now?
Currently, we have 39 international and national industry members and 3 universities that are involved. So that has grown in the last 3 years from the 7 original industry members and 3 universities.
And how many of them are Oregon-based companies? Curious.
Oh, good question. I believe that 8 of them have headquarters here in the state of Oregon. 8 or 9, including the universities. But they come from all over. We have companies that are headquartered in other states, and then additionally Sweden, Germany, Japan, South Korea, Taiwan. And so really it's the UK. So really it's an international interest. There's a lot of international interest in us as well.
So I'm curious only because I've been here for a long time. So I know that we're not the only, I mean, it was the AMRC, patterned after the AMRC. I think
Correct.
why would a company in like Sweden or Germany come to Oregon? Not that we don't want them to, instead of a different location that may be closer to them. What's the advantage?
So the advantage in working with us versus the AMRC, out of the 15 research centers that Boeing has helped create globally, we're the only one that they've created here in the United States. And the AMRC is a very large organization. They have about 125 members, 10 buildings, hundreds of staff. And with that comes the extremely long lead times for research. So for companies looking to get a quicker turnaround, somebody of our size is more attractive. Additionally, we are located in the aerospace corridor, which stretches from Washington down to California. And so there's a significant amount of aerospace work that's happening here in the Pacific Northwest and the western half of the United States. And then on top of it, Oregon is just extremely unique with all the different industries that we have here. As everyone knows, we have a lot of logging and forestry. We have some automotive, oil and gas, medical, firearms. So just really a unique mix here. And so it's really driven the want and need to bolster the manufacturing here in the state of Oregon and nationally.
Great. Actually. Does anybody have any questions for Josh? We haven't had an OMIC. Okay, thank you so much. Do we have somebody here from the county? And is Nancy available? Did we lose Nancy?
Yeah, she had to hop off.
Then it's you. It's on. And the microphone.
Hi, Gina Cisco with the Port of Columbia County External Affairs Manager. I'll give a quick update for our industrial lands inventory that we've been working on. So the port contracted with McKinsey this summer to do a county-wide inventory of all the industrial lands. After we worked with the different jurisdictions, the county and the cities all provided their GIS and strategic plan data to our consultant. And then once we received all of the different industrial lands, we've been siloing it down to sites of net developable 5 acres or more based on eliminating for wetlands and slope. And then we've narrowed it down to, and of course, availability. They were already in use. They weren't considered. To, I think it was about 32 sites countywide that we have. 13 of them are in Scappoose. And then we are working to tier those sites, tier 1, 2, and 3, based on utilities, transportation access, and whether or not the sellers are willing to negotiate, wanting to lease or sell their property. We contacted each of the current property owners. We are now going to have a final draft of the report by the end of the year. And then we're working on creating an interactive web page where site selectors will be able to see the available properties and the development readiness of each approximate timelines based on the tier that they were given. And then that will be available to the public and site selectors to see what we actually have for industrial development here in Columbia County. And then we've had a project advisory group that's been helping. Michael Sykes has been on that, Paul Vogel, Alex from the city, and Rachel Berry from the city of St. Helens. Has been helping guide this project also. That's one of the major things we've been working on for economic development.
What's the largest single site, you know?
Just a second. I think it might be Armstrong. Off the top of my head. Yes, I've probably divided that into separate sites, so it's not all together. Yes, and then Armstrong, off the top of my head.
Those are probably the top two. The interesting thing out of the study is looking at parcel size versus buildable. That's been sobering. Live real close to the river. Wetlands, flooding, and all of that is a big issue. I'd say you got 250 acres.
We're trying to
Still in better shape than the Oregon stuff. sobering.
I'm going to say that's fantastic.
Any other questions? We'll have an open house on this also once we get it all on the website. Mary? Available.
I guess the only thing I wanted to add to this is that I think this is a long time overdue, and it's really great that the board stepped up to do this. My frustrations has been that they have all this fabulous land, but nobody knows where it is except us. And I got to take my hat off to Paul and Gina and the board for really spearheading this. And I think this is going to give us some good information that we can utilize to, one, market our properties and people interested, they know if we have shovel-ready or not shovel-ready property. But the other thing that's important is it identifies some of the weaknesses of some of the sites so that if there's infrastructure money coming from Washington, D.C. or Salem, we have a priority list and we have a clear understanding of where we can best invest our money. So I think it's really good work. Thanks for lead on that.
I could just add, the great thing about the deliverable from this is digital. And whatever this committee comes up with in terms of goals, it could offer some interesting actionable items in terms of taking that, just focusing on SCAPUS properties. We've gotten what we in identifying. The other thing it's going to do is going to identify entitlements and instructions to employability and all of this and that and the other. That will be an interesting bite-sized chunk that this committee could actually. Not for nothing.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to provide an update? I think people have popped off. So then let's move to goal setting. And there was a couple of committee members that couldn't attend. Robbie was here, but I know he's in finals week right now, so he had to go and manage that. But he did send in what his suggestions were, and Isaac was kind enough to give a copy of that email so everybody has that. Isaac, tell us, do you want to go through these specifically, or do you just want to free form? I've not done this. Normally Alex led this in the past.
So the way I've experienced it is typically the committee will review what council had set for 2021-2022's fiscal year, kind of look at what those goals are that relate to economic development, talk about if they feel they've been achieved or not, if they want to revisit those. And then they look at things like the comments that they've made, or they talk about what they might like to see additionally. And from those discussions, we kind of create, or you kind of create a set of recommendations to council. So they can be the same, they can be different, or they can be mixed between some of them being continued on or not.
Okay. So let's review. It's in our packets. It says they're 2021, 2022. So are these the council goals? This is what they recommend we do.
Yeah, so I believe there are 2 or 3 documents. One of them is going to be titled something like committee goals or committee's recommended goals 2021, 2022. That's what the committee recommended for the last fiscal or current fiscal year. The next one that says council goals or something similar to that are the goals that were adopted by city council. And I believe they're highlighted in yellow, the ones that relate to economic development. So there's a comparator there between what was recommended and what was adopted.
The way I've done this stuff in the past is to decide overall what you want to see happen and then break those down into action steps. So if we could maybe talk about overall goals, what we would like to see happen. Then we could come up with steps to get us to that goal.
We have to come up with a cohesive goal that we as a committee want to
Yeah,
then go backwards, but it has to line up with what city council wants.
right.
It can or it cannot. I mean, some of this is you making new recommendations as well. I mean, they'll look through them and make a decision about whether they like them or how they fit with what they're looking at and what they.
Okay. Well, when I chatted with Scott earlier today, I lured him into my office with free coffee. We talked about what his idea was that we kind of worked on, and it was in the works meeting they had this week. It was about, they called it the Big Brother Incentive Program and the Big Brother Store Improvement Program, but he thought there was a different name for it.
Related to what?
Improving the storefronts.
Ah, okay.
I was super excited about because, of course, that's my mission.
Yeah.
So he thought that would be something that was directly, that was more, that it's something that we could do. You know, you said they don't want to do it, but we really want them to do it.
I think if you take a look at the Scappoose Urban Renewal Plan, you'll find that project in there, and I think it's going to be funded and it's a priority. The question is there funding to do it now or when, I guess. But it definitely something that you put on a goal list.
Yeah, it's something that we could, I mean, I don't know how and what our role would be in a program like that. How could we impact that? Because it's definitely something that I and I know. Hi, Lori.
Hi, I have an idea.
Goody.
Just to clarify, the two different names of those grants were Business Development Grant and New Development Incentives Grant. And those names might change, and one is more related to new development where perhaps they need help with infrastructure costs, things like that, site development. And then the other one, the business development grant, would apply to existing businesses who might need to do some storefront improvements. But I think the way they're proposing it now, it would also include interior renovations. Also equipment, if it's staying on site, equipment, purchasing, things like that. So they're still developing the program, the Urban Renewal Agency is. But one of the things that came up a lot was also creating a theme for the city, along with development standards. And so that was sort of an idea, that's something that this committee could work on, is reviewing different concepts and ideas for something like that, and then reporting back to council kind of what your thoughts are. So that would potentially be something that this committee could look at, and would also potentially dovetail into some of the community visioning that will happen as part of the 50-year plan.
On that note, there's a couple other items. So there's the 50-year plan. There will be some kind of a technical advisory committee. So there's work there potentially on the economic opportunities analysis as well as something else this committee could work on. And then recently, I think it was 2 council meetings ago, council had asked the Economic Development Committee to help out with kind of like a city promotional videos and working on that kind of work as well. Between the Urban Renewal Agency work, Main Street Program, et cetera, that you've heard of, those are kind of areas that we.
Scott also said, let's act like more of a chamber of commerce to try to get kind of a smaller version of Paul, in that we could help get more businesses to come to Scappoose specifically, kind of working as a chamber of commerce or just Scappoose. We used to, when this first started, I think George was on it. I don't think Brian was on it. I was on it. I think Brady, where we actually tried to solicit businesses. So getting restaurants to come here. I know this was again, probably back in 2015 that I think you called McMinimums and I called a bunch of places. So getting something like a subcommittee to do something like that. I think, Michael, you probably used to have lunches. And then he also said, just we as a committee act as like a marketing organization, kind of build the brand of Scappoose. So these are ideas that Scott was calling.
One thing I noticed in all of the comments from the other committee members that have been going around in email is there's a common theme, and that common theme is intelligent growth. So that entails population growth, jobs, what kind of jobs we want to attract, and what sort of amenities we want to provide. So that seems to be a general theme going forward.
I think I mean, this might be naive in saying this, but intelligent growth, I mean, we're kind of at the victim of who comes, right? What is built is who will come, and can we be intelligent or strategic in that? We can't close the door.
Yeah.
They're not on our.
Do we want any job? Do we want
But
better jobs?
we had a town meeting about 5 years ago that was focused on asking all the citizens, and I think 175 showed up, what their vision was for the community. And we spent over a year developing a vision statement. And it might be useful for this discussion to have a copy of that, because I think it was very well done, and it really kind of got at the issues you're talking about, is what kind of community do we want? Parks, where do we want parks? And honestly, that was kind of that set the stage for creation of this committee. And if you look back 5 years, we didn't have any property in our urban growth boundary that was industrial. We brought in 500 acres. And because of the goals that were set here, cities spent, millions of dollars on trying to upgrade their water and wastewater facilities, and focused on OMIC, focused on PCC. And if you really take a look back, this committee's been extraordinarily successful in helping to guide and give city staff and council a vision of where we want to go. So I think we've done that. And it might, sometimes when you set goals, it's really good to kind of revisit what that mission statement, or more importantly, that vision statement is, and how have you done? And I think it'd be kind of fun to look at that. It was very well done, and I really think we've done an extraordinary job as a community, really try and accomplish, building more parks, adding 400 acres to the industrial inventory, and doing a lot of those things. And really like the thoughts that you brought about maybe doing storefront improvements. And I think that would be really fun to just maybe have a whiteboard over here and on those different ideas. And then we're done, we can all vote on them and figure out what really are priorities. Because I could throw out there and say that a great idea to put your waste dump over on the industrial property is going to create 3 jobs, but nobody else would agree with that. So I think
We already have that.
well, yeah, but I don't think that every idea that comes up is embraced by the whole committee, and there needs to be a way that we can make sure that really is a collective voice. Anyway, I should shut up, but
No, we appreciate it so much.
yes.
Had like 3 or 4 of them.
Had every year until the COVID hit, and then the city suspended last year. So, yes.
Do you find the vision statement?
But
Let's say we're of the public.
well, you ask and you shall receive, and there's
Good that way.
yeah.
So do we want to, do we want to write it up on the whiteboard? I'll write. I mean, we just have to figure out, and Brian suggested the last time.
Well, I wanted to make a comment. I'm not intrinsically against all storefront improvements. What I don't want to do, as a landlord, I pay to paint my buildings, and I don't want to create a bunch of people that won't paint their buildings unless somebody pays to paint it for them. So I think storefront improvements could be, and even though that would be great for me, because I'd be nice never have to pay to paint my own buildings again, I don't think it's right for the city to get involved in that. But what we could do for storefront improvements that could be very beneficial to the community, be things like getting electrical outlets on poles so that we can have Christmas lights and things of that nature that a landlord is never going to get involved in, partly because it's on the right of way, partly because they're just not going to do it. So there's some opportunities where we could improve the facades of our buildings without trying to subsidize the owners and getting involved in creating dependents who will no longer pay to maintain their own properties because they feel like somebody else will do it for them. So there's some things like lights and things like that that we could get involved in that would help without actually kind of ruining the whole capitalist system that we base our whole society on, which is you pay to play.
I don't.
I have no idea. That's why we have you here.
I have something to say, but I think Alex has something to say first.
I would just add that the grants that their council's contemplating, I don't think they'd be big enough to create the type of dependence you're talking about. They'd be smaller amounts. It would be helpful. It would help someone get a project started, but it definitely wouldn't be near enough to complete it. They also were contemplating matching requirements, so I don't think that the issue you're describing would necessarily be a problem.
And my thought was, it's not so much, that they're going to become dependent on the city. So as a recruiter, I bring people in at the executive level to small towns, to communities. And I realize that I'm going to say something that's sexist, but when the husband, goes in and interviews in this tiny little town, and he interviews, they like it, okay, it's time to bring the family out. Mrs. whomever comes out, she looks around, it's no, I'm not moving to that town. So if we want people to come, we need to look better than what we look right now. It's for the greater good.
If you're talking about looking better versus marketing and merchandising, there's two different things. Okay, you could put
It's the book by the cover. We're judging the book by the cover.
The book by the cover doesn't do it, because if we talk about the storefronts, there's no parking on the highway, literally. And you got 6 parking spots per block over there, and you got some terrible rat infested parking lots out in the backside. Okay?
I've never seen a rat back there.
Well, go out, leave some cheese, you'll find them. But those are not stylish buildings. They're not modern buildings. They're not buildings that, if you walked up and said, should I put $50,000 into this building? The answer is, you have to tear it down and pack it away.
Well, I mean, is that the thing? Are they?
So, okay, so I mean, what Brian's done, commercial buildings are attractive commercial buildings, and they're modern commercial buildings. But those buildings are not attractive. They're not modern. They're not anything. So if we go out and spend, I don't mind if we put it, we put a 25% matching grant to it. So it's at $500 to do the painting, and we put $125 in it. Okay, that means they put $375. They participated. Okay, but obviously at this juncture they're not participating. Nobody's freshening those up. Nobody's doing anything. So if there's all this opportunity, quote unquote, but nobody's reacting to it, then why are we trying to assist them?
Because we live in a town that we want to be more aesthetically.
What you'd like is Multnomah Village.
No,
Oh, no,
I don't
no.
even need Multnomah Village. I just want something that's more aesthetically pleasing. And if we can give them an incentive to do it, if they're not doing it on their own, but we can provide an incentive, then we can live in a town that we can be more proud of.
I think that if it was a small matching, it wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing. It would just be more of a thank you, please. But where there's a difference between a small matching like 25% with a limit of a few $100s versus we're going to write a check for $5 or $10 grand to try to make your pig look like not a pig.
At least it could be a prettier pig.
Well,
The hope and goal is actually long term is that some of that will get redeveloped.
That's the whole idea, yeah.
And so that's not that it's going to happen tomorrow or the next day, but someday it'll get redeveloped. And so when you start interfering with the free market, what you start doing is you prevent that from happening. And so, but I understand your concern. It's a very legitimate concern, so I'm not discounting it.
Thank you.
But I think the answer is to not turn the table so much that we create problems that are unforeseen, where people won't do repairs unless they're subsidized, and it doesn't prevent possible replacement because they're just barely good enough to hold on, when the economics might say at some point, tear the son of a bitch down and start over.
Well, that's what Lynn.
Excuse the language, but
May I? These are the kind of discussions that we're hoping that come out of the goal setting, right? So maybe today we're looking for, if this is an interest of the committee and something they want to talk about and advise council on, that's great. That's the kind of broader topic we're looking for.
Okay.
And so the point of this is to bring things like that out that you want to talk about, that you want to have a say in as a group.
Right, so I would point out that, for instance, one of your goals could be, support and advise council on urban renewal. Well, this is exactly the kind of thing you're talking about. Another one could be serve as a technical advisory committee for the 50-year plan. And again, we'll pull you in when we need you on that. At one point there was interest in Main Street. We could revisit that. If you like the idea that the mayor put forward of functioning as more like a chamber of commerce, well, maybe the first step in that is we explore what that would even mean and what that would look like. These are all bigger overarching things that would take certain amount of time and implementation. But those could be your overarching goals.
So the way the process would work, Alex, would be that they'd come up with some goals and then submit them to the council. The council would adopt probably most of them, which is historically they have.
Yeah, I think that sometimes the council modifies them slightly, but generally speaking, I would say they're in large part adopted. The council has their retreat on February 12th, so obviously the idea would be to get suggestions from you prior to that so they can be submitted to them and they can review them. But, I think a lot of these things we're talking about, actually, I do think there's actually some, just based on what you all are saying, some kind of obvious, bigger goals that we could put down and then drill down into what exactly those mean and what they look like. But, we don't need to have all of that figured out right this moment, but I do think there's some good things on the table that you could all be involved with.
So after the council adopts those goals, then basically your staff would put together action plans, would kind of outline how you're going to try and accomplish them. And I imagine that you probably would be, as you develop those, get feedback from this committee on different, that might get a little bit more in the weeds.
Correct.
Is that fair to say?
For instance,
Okay.
like when the 50-year plan, when we're talking about that economic opportunities analysis, well, having people from this group would be obviously perfect for that technical advisory committee. So, things like that would take a substantial amount of time and effort, and would be, hugely beneficial for the city to have, the expertise of the people in the room. So I think there's some very, big topics that coming up that will, really be something for this committee to look at.
I think that 50-year plans can be fascinating to see how that unfolds. That could be really interesting.
I'm very curious about it.
I am too,
I
because,
think it's very Nostradamus.
well,
good, Tina.
but if you think about the 50-year plan just for a second, Scappoose, where are you going to build your next high school? We have nowhere to put a new high school. Within the city limits, urban growth boundary, and with our present planning, even with our, with what we have, we don't have a clue where that's going to go. And unless we take a holistic look at the community and determine where that's going to go in future retail, we're going to run out of space, because once you figure out where it is, then you got to spend 20 years putting the infrastructure in. So I think it's really great that the city's going to put the energy into that, because as things change. Right.
Oh, you had something to say.
It's kind of more in the weeds. It's along the lines of what Alex was talking about. I mean, there's no need to try to invent a Main Street improvement program. Main Street America, Main Street Oregon have been very carefully developing programs that work around this, and that are thoughtful, inclusive, planful, and don't just become subsidies that you throw at businesses for decades. They've already got these. A role and a goal from this committee could be to research the body of work that Main Street Development has developed and find a program that fits here. I mean, we were on the phone with some folks out in Baker County yesterday, and they actually took it to the extreme of recommending and passing an ordinance about ghost buildings. Could not have a derelict building in town. That's several steps down the road, but that's how seriously they took it. Main Street, Oregon is a great resource.
Yeah, right.
Well, and that's exactly the kind of discussions you can have and advise us on. So not to get too much in the weeds, but to think about the kinds of things you want to talk about, kinds of things you want to see change, have those conversations, and that could be a goal. We want to look at this because we want to move the needle one way or the other. That's kind of the goal would be then to look at the Main Street program and advise council about how to move forward.
I had a question. I'm just curious. Has anybody actually ever contacted the owners of these buildings to see if they would be willing to improve their facades? And so, I mean, that to me would seem like the lowest lying fruit possible. And then say, and if they come back and say, we'd love to, but we can't afford to for XX and reasons, then maybe you start a discussion. But I don't know. It just seems like that would be the way to approach it. Is first of all, instead of trying to plan around them and they're not sitting in the room, try to bring them into the conversation, the front side.
That's my point. Is there are programs that lay that out step by step, the processes to go through, and they
Well, I'm saying
statutes and ordinances and all
Yeah.
this, and they make it a very systematic process to walk through so that you don't waste a bunch of time, and you start with the really good basic stuff. Has anybody ever asked?
but that's not, you're saying exactly the opposite of what I'm saying. What I'm saying is talk to the people and deal with them outside of a program. You're saying, let's create this big program and then we'll use the structure of the program.
I'm not actually. I'm saying go talk to people who have done this successfully before, find out the steps to go through. And I'm sure that one of the first things is exactly what you're saying, and that is go talk to your business owners.
Well,
I'm not saying set up a program. I'm saying explore the ones that already exist and see if there's one you want to adopt.
Well,
I
we
would
ought
point
to-
out too, though, that the urban renewal plan that, council and you all actually served as the TAC for, that plan does have, these kind of business improvements baked in as a project in the plan. Approximately, I believe it was right around 25,000 a year was the only amount identified for that. That's not very much money. And, so year over year, that's how the program would function. So I just want to point out that that's already essentially baked into the plan. So I'm just pointing that out.
I don't want to beat a dead horse. I probably should move on to something.
Let's just focus on our goal.
Yeah. I think it probably will be, but the question is in what format.
So what I'm going to record up here.
Marketing.
Is that covered under the Chamber of Commerce bullet? You could do.
No, they're different.
Other ideas? Following. Your goal would be.
A walkway along Scappoose Creek for about. I want it for the whole community. It's absolutely a travesty that there is no relationship to that creek. I mean, we're like San Antonio, only they were smart enough to build a river right through the middle of the town, develop it. I mean, there's.
Highway.
No,
Highway.
the creek doesn't run through the highway. It runs outside of the highway. I mean, I've fished the creek for years, so I pretty well walked it and know what it's about. I mean, all the way down to Scappoose Bay. Absolutely a beautiful, beautiful piece. Most of it is undeveloped. I mean, there's parts of it, there's homes on, but on the west side of it, there's an awful lot of it that's open property, and there's obviously wetland issues. So, but the pathways you can build through the wetlands by code, that's not an anti-wetland thing. So
I think that's something that'll come up at the 50-year at the TAC, I believe. And I know that the Parks Committee has the similar concern, and they've had a goal for a while about a creek. There's a creek side plan. Like there's been some thought about that. So I think that's definitely on the minds of a lot of people.
right.
How can we capitalize on OMEC as an economic development engine? And that's the obvious attractor. I mean, you've got Intel, of course, across the hill, and they're looking for some place to put a new chip factory, but we don't have the land for that.
Don't have the water either.
Yeah.
But I think it's important to put it back up there, continue to support OMIC and BCC develop the industrial property. I mean, continue.
That should be an attractor for other independent businesses too.
Absolutely. No question about it. I don't think Ed Freeman and Joe Weston would be putting all that water and sewer line and roadways out there if that wasn't possible. So, so I think it, this marketing piece that Paul shared, I think is that's the kind of stuff we should be doing. And
how do we capture the technology and skills that the people in this community have and go to Portland or Hillsborough or Gresham or Wilsonville or something every day? Intel has 1,500 employees that live in Columbia County, for instance. All right. I mean, OMIC is a great idea as an industrial process, and I'm glad PCC is coming here. That's great. But we need to figure out something that generates the input. I mean, they're young people, they're skilled, they're well educated, they're well salaried. They can do lots of things that we need some kind of a format for it.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's science. It's not computer-based science like the Silicon Forest, but it's still science, and we should be able to attract other science and advanced manufacturing.
Are you guys talking about an accelerator program?
Explain.
An accelerator program is, it can be done like, you can create cohorts in order to bring in, for example, if somebody mentioned about aerospace. So you can say aerospace companies or certain technology that we attract through OMIC, that we can create cohorts in order to help small business generate or grow or start a company or innovation through the support of the colleges and OMIC and its technologies and the current members of OMIC to develop that innovation. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense to me. So what would our position be on that? Would we be coordinators?
I think it's be part of supporting supporting OMIC and the R&D.
I mean, OMIC already has some plans like that. I mean, they put together a Build Back Better proposal that had accelerators and incubators and all kinds of things like that. OMIC's been there 3.5 years. Intel's been there 30 years. And Lynn's exactly right. I mean, where we want to be is drawing people traveling here or living here and working in businesses like they are in Intel. Intel, $9 billion and 30 years later, that's what happens when you have a nucleus like that. But they were the Lone Rangers. They left the Silicon Forest and came up here, or Silicon Valley, and came up here and it develops. But we're really kind of at the early stage of OMIC and advanced and additive manufacturing here. And so finding out what OMIC's plans are, what their long-term strategy is, and how this committee can lead that from a community standpoint and help them do the things that they can. Livability, and what are the other things that we can do as a community that support what you're doing as a strategic development? That seems like an actionable thing.
That's the exact point of this committee is we have people from PCC and OMIC and all around to bring those brains together. And so these goals can be translated. So you could have a goal that says support OMIC, PCC, OMIC R&D as an economic development engine by meeting about this topic X amount of times, or figuring out how we can support them, develop a goal around that. And we can combine a couple of these things together where you'd have the business attractor portion and the PCC support, OMIC support together, and then, on it, talk about how the city can do that and then make recommendations to council to move that forward.
Well, I think that you could probably, right, maybe before OMIC, but work with CET / Port of Columbia County to help promote OMIC and economic development of all that industrial area, because basically all the leads come in through either the port or through CET. So, we're already partnering with them, meeting regularly, but that needs to continue.
I mean, is that something that we, our group of 9, can really impact? And I mean, what does that look like? I mean, if we look at what we did 5 or 6 years ago in trying to solicit new business, that was something that we as individual members went out and tried to connect with other businesses to get them here. And so we were, actively using our skill set to try to solicit business. So we were making an impact. But how we as a group of 9 people that meet once a month for a sandwich, are we going to be able to impact that and be a resource to them?
Well, I guess my take on that would be that by embracing it as a goal and a priority, what we're saying to the city council is we think you need to put staff and resources to make that happen, and then continue to monitor the progress. I don't know if any of us have time to really get too much in the weeds on the day-to-day stuff.
I have a small idea. Maybe the way I understand what Mike's saying, and he's right. It's also, Tina's right too, is that if we can't have a huge impact, but maybe the way to do this is to have a goal of support the following things. And then, so instead of it having 6 goals, support this, support that, we have one goal, support, and then we list the items there as to not give ourselves a lot of goals that, although it's important that we support them, we're not going to have that much involved in them on a day-to-day basis. And that would kind of keep it more to things that we could have more direct impact on as being the focus, while simultaneously trying to give support to those things that are important, like OMIG.
And some of those things will be, you will be approached to sit on the TAC for the 5th year, and that will encompass time from how many members, 1, 2, I'm not sure. That will be in line with those goals. And the other way to look at this too is that some of this is goals for you as a committee, but this is also guidance for council. Council will adopt some of these or most of these as they have in the past and direct staff to work on these. So it's really a multifaceted thing where it's not just looking at what the committee can do, but it's, not advising council, but giving them recommendations about things they could do to make a difference. And then through council, that goes to staff, and back to committees and into action. So it's not quite so small as these things can be impacted. You just look at the 50-year plan. That's been a goal for a long time. And now we're on the cusp of starting that work. It's going to take years to do, and it's going to be huge. But it was just a goal.
For years, the panacea for communities was always, let's build a conference center and a hotel.
Are you going to build us a hotel?
No. The question of the conference center, I'm not talking about a 500 space kind of a thing. But I think that there's the way that if we have a conference center of some size, maybe 150 people. And obviously you have to go to the market and find out if that's a necessity. What you do is you'll get key man participation in those kind of conferences. which means that the drive from Portland to Scappoose is not, it's not far away. Or as they say in the newspaper, Scappoose is west of Portland. We think it's north. And the television, I always love that. But if we had that conference, so you had a full day event, so you fed people, they had time, you know, and they can look around the neighborhood when they leave and they can kind of see what this is about. But to get people here, we need something to get that came in, because your direct approach going door to door is probably the toughest thing in the world. Okay, because people, number one, aren't ready for it. They're not open-minded to it. They're kind of going, oh, why is somebody here trying to press me? However, if you're at a conference, then you take some time to look around and you get, they're kind of interplaying with the process. Functional, not something that's a $20 million project. That maybe we can put together for a couple of $1 million and make our community something that, you know.
I think those key people are already here. They just don't work here.
No. If no, the key people are not here. The like the Intel employees, they're making 100,000. Okay, yeah. That's their plus or minus 150,000. But that's not enough to support a $10 million investment or a startup company. Yeah. Right? What you're looking for is the senior vice president of, or the junior vice president of some company who said, well, we'd like to have an annex that did this or did that. We could come out here and because we can do it remotely, it's easy to work with. It's a nice place to be. Besides that, I'd like to fish on the river. There's all kinds of motivations that are to be out here. We just haven't got the bodies drug here yet.
Well, I think we want to keep talking about this, but we have a couple of more things that we
Okay.
have to talk about our team agreement and have to figure out which one of these things. Do you want us to pick 3? Isaac?
I had one other item I'd like maybe to see, 2 other items I'd like to be discussed. Are we going to just continue this next meeting and doesn't?
So the next meeting is January 20th, I believe.
Yeah, that's Thursday.
Then we have to talk about February.
Well, we'll just throw this out here right now. Along that lens line, we've talked about it in past years. We haven't gotten it. It's crucial for economic development in this town. It's crucial for the airport. We need a hotel motel here, something that Best Western or better.
Well,
and I would like to see maybe some progress towards that. And I think the progress would be is we would discuss the possibility in our committee of recommending to council that they do a reduction in SDCs for the first hotel motel that meets certain standards, so that it would not Motel 6, something that a corporate client would set up here. We would want to probably set up parameters for that, what size, quality level. And that would be something that our committee could actually do. We could set up those parameters, send the recommendation off to council. Council could then decide to either enact it or not, but it would create the groundwork to give some support to that happening, because I think that's going to hold up development at the airport, another development in the area until we get one of those. My corporate days, we would not locate in the town that did not have a decent hotel motel. We just wouldn't do it. Motel. Yeah, and at a conference, that'd be great. But if we can't get that, we at least got to get a hotel motel here, or it's going to really stifle our development.
Yeah. Well, and Lori, you could answer this. I know that the credit union had looked very seriously at the property over across from Fultano's. Okay, and ODOT's regulatory nonsense, quote unquote, has given them fits, which I don't understand, because ODOT, it's got a signalization. Okay, it's not a isolated street that you're going to have interface traffic problems with. You've got a light system. And so I think we need to go to ODOT as a community and say, take the restrictions off and just put an apartment, 30 unit or whatever unit apartment up there, multi-units, okay, that, and there just is no reason that piece of real estate, it's far enough off the highway so the vibration isn't going to raise with a motel, and it's big enough. The credit union obviously has got capital resources. They want to do it, but we should be helping them do it. Biddy's piece is big enough.
Yeah.
It's 9 acres or 10 acres.
Benny,
Well, if you just get all the checkbooks, as you can imagine how he does.
that's okay. So let's just through these and then you guys can.
So
Okay.
we have next meeting too. We just have to be done by then. This,
We'll continue talking about our goals in the January 20th meeting. There's a problem with the February meeting, so we either have to switch the date of the February meeting to the week before, the week after, or skip the meeting. I think we should have the meeting. Or we can't go all virtual. We have to change the venue or the date. Is that correct?
we could do all
I
virtual.
don't like all virtual. I don't want that as an option.
You do or do not?
I don't like it. This is so great, don't you think? Otherwise, it's just a
Oh,
sad
yeah.
sack meeting.
Absolutely.
It's up to the committee how they want to. I mean, that is an option, but not.
So, what was the date of the, like, tell me what the Thursday before, or can we do it earlier in the week? Can we do it on a Tuesday? Does that work for everybody? We do it before Thursday or after Thursday? What works?
Excuse me, I have a suggestion. You guys hear me? So I know that we're all busy and we don't need more meetings, but what about if we have just like a retreat or just a meeting regarding the goals? And just concentrate on that instead of having other stuff to the agenda.
Do that at our next meeting. Yeah, let's just do goals at the next meeting.
Goals
I mean, I'm talking like no updates and nothing, just focus on the goals.
I know.
Nick, can we make a motion for that? Jeanette, is that your motion?
Sure, I'm
I'll second it.
motion to, yep,
We want-
okay.
Yep, both, yeah. Yes, okay. Slap me in
Okay,
the
so
head.
next meeting, we'll only talk about goals. And we'll solidify, we'll try to get it down, whittled down. But back to February. I don't have my
So-
calendar. Oh, wait.
Wednesday is court. Thursday and Friday, I believe we have something in here, so we couldn't do that. I don't see anything that would impede our ability to have a meeting in here on Monday or Tuesday.
Of that week. Just for simplicity, should we just change it to a different Thursday?
Yeah.
Anyone?
I'm indifferent.
You guys okay with the Thursday? We don't
I'm
have to have your
indifferent.
schedule.
Whatever works for you.
Okay.
Feels.
Yeah.
So it's either, our meeting was the 17th, so it's either the 10th or the 24th. What do we want to do?
I'd go with the 24th, so it's after council retreat.
Wouldn't they need the goals before then?
We're talking February.
In
We're gonna
January.
do that.
Okay,
The February meeting's the one moving.
my apology, yeah, okay.
Can do it Thursday, the 24th, same time.
Okay, so Thursday, 24th, everyone? Okay.
Yes.
Do we need to make a motion for that?
Yep.
Are we good?
We can just do it by, and then unanimous consent. We do need to approach the team agreement though in the last 30 seconds.
Okay, so the team agreement, I think everybody has looked at this. I think we're asking for a signature on the team agreement. Just lost my copy. Just everybody needs to read it and understand what it means to be a part of the Economic Development Committee. There's been some things that have happened that we just need to confirm that we understand what our role is on the committee and how we liaise with the city and city council. So do you want us to sign it or do you want us to give it to?
Typically, they're just kind of adopted by the committee by vote. We haven't usually had them sign in the past. Council doesn't sign theirs, but they do adopt it as a team agreement. So there are 5 members here. You could vote on it pretty quick if you like. It's the same. We haven't adjusted any language, just readopting it.
Okay, so do you want us to read them? Okay. So number 1 says the attendance at the committee meeting is the priority. If unable to attend, please contact the city staff. Every effort will be made to begin the meeting at 12 and end at 1:30. Yep, we're late. Be on time to meetings and read any material sent out prior to the meeting. Just so you know, like sometimes, like especially before this meeting and the last meeting, I'd sent out just prompts to the committee members. Like, you know, respond to my prompts. I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page and ready to go for the meeting so we can be efficient. Chair will take the lead in keeping the meeting and discussion focused. Call the city staff with questions and requests prior to the meeting. Agree to be diplomatic about be straightforward about goals and issues. Cultivate exchanges of views with other committee members. Avoid saying or doing anything that would discredit or harm the city. Avoid saying or doing anything that would discredit or harm the city. Support the committee's mission statement. Recommend by the committee of city council must be discussed and voted upon by quorum. Act as an advisory body of city council. Support city council's annual economic development goals. Is there anything that we should add or that we disagree with? Ryan? Wondering.
It's all up to interpretation is what I would say.
Or are you still stuck on avoid saying or doing anything that would discredit? Are you stuck on that one?
No. I have no issue with that. I think that's part of being on the committee. I think that if we choose to be here, then we also choose not to be quite as vocal as we might be on some other issues because it's a trade-off.
Well, I think that we can be vocal. I mean, that's why we're here is to.
I know, but within the parameters of.
I don't think we should be writing letters to the editor and spouting our opinion in that regard. I think that's important.
I mean, I think we could write a letter to
It's
the
in
editor,
poor
but.
taste, Lynn.
I didn't do that.
Okay, I'm watching you.
You could write a letter to the editor, but it should not be in the terms of like as committee does or functions or reviews.
Right.
It'd be a non-committee or the city
Yeah,
as
we shouldn't
far
be
as.
disparaging the city.
Or
Committee members.
Oh, no, never a committee member.
Yeah. So are we all in agreement? I guess it's 4 of us and Jeanette is here. I don't know. I can't.
That is correct.
So we do have a quorum.
You can say whatever you want about the city, Michael. You'll have to deal with Alex.
I propose that we update it from the 2019 to 2020, update the dates and maybe the adopted date.
We'll do that when we update with this reaffirmation that this is what we want to do.
Okay. Can't hear you, Mike.
Going to say that the real purpose of the team agreement is it gives, some team rules. It's important for you to hear this, Paul. But basically, the bottom line is we can agree and discuss and debate, but if we have any real disagreements, leave them here and move on as friends and continue to do the good work of the committee. And I think that's really what that agreement's all about.
Just like Congress.
I don't think they have one.
Used to be.
I mean, I want everybody to come prepared and to be thoughtful. And I think that we've kind of gotten away from bringing ideas and it's been, let's just see what's happening in the city and then we're out. But we are an organization that is supposed to meet and accomplish something. We need to accomplish something and be focused and not just come for the sandwich. Idea. You can come for the sandwich. I mean, we want that.
See you, Mike.
Thank you for coming. We really want you to come here.
Realize you've moved on to bigger things.
Like your
Wisdom and your institutional knowledge.
so valuable. Don't talk so much. We value you so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not as effective.
Oh.
We're adjourned. I said that, so you be free.
Our drainage district.